Good Friday afternoon, everybody. Aaron Dorr here, Director of Georgia Gun Owners. I know that it's Friday at 4 o'clock, getting very close to people having some weekend time. Want to give you guys one video update before you begin your weekend, though, about the fight for Second Amendment freedom, both here in Georgia and across the country. It's a major development in the fight for two-way freedom. We saw this happen just days ago in Missouri, and we're going to kind of paint a story here for you today. A tale of two governors, if you will. You've got Brian Kemp on the one hand, and today we're going to have him squaring off against Missouri Governor Mike Parson, and we want to show you guys what's happening in red America across the country. Not here in Georgia, but everywhere else in red America, we're seeing pro-gun bills pass at a rate that, frankly, I have never seen in the 13 years I've been involved in the fight for gun rights. And we're hearing from a lot of people right now that are trying to defend our absolutely feckless governor. That he can't do a whole lot. He can't do a whole lot until David Ralston puts the bill on his desk. Now, we've all discussed David Ralston for years here at GGO. We know he's a corrupt piece of trash. That's a given. That's a given. But the real issue here is, when will Brian Kemp stand up and lead us in the fight for freedom here in Georgia? So, without further ado, I forgot. I hope you're all enjoying your Juneteenth federal holiday today. So maybe you're already home from work. Maybe you got a day off of work today because Joe Biden has given us a new federal holiday. But for everybody else who's just about to get off of work, sorry, you just don't qualify for Juneteenth today. So, guys, in addition to my work for Georgia Gun Owners, for years I've been involved as a director for the Missouri Firearms Coalition. And Missouri has been fighting for several years now to pass the Second Amendment Preservation Act. We were always concerned about a Biden or a Buttigieg or a fill in the blank presidency several years ago. And so in red Missouri, just like here in red Georgia, we have been fighting for the Second Amendment Preservation Act for some time. We call it SAPA for short. We had it introduced this session by Philip Singleton, State Rep, House Bill 597. Now, what SAPA would do is pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but it's got seismic ramifications when it comes to our gun rights. When passed into law, what SAPA would do is say, the federal government can pass whatever the hell they want. Gun control, executive actions, regulations, all kinds of garbage like that. But here in Georgia is not going to allow our state, sheriff's deputies. We're not going to allow our state troopers, our city cops, our resources, in other words, to be used to enforce federal gun control laws. The idea has been called the Anti-Commandeering Act. It's been called the idea of federalism. There's a lot of phrases for it. The idea is pretty simple. When it comes down to a mano-a-mano fight between the state and federal government, where state law and federal law contradict, the states have always had the right to tell the feds, no, we're not going to enforce this garbage. We're not going to be a part of this. If you want to enforce your own federal laws, then go for it. But we're not going to do it with our resources. So it's pretty simple. And it's been upheld by the Supreme Court for hundreds of years. Going back to the 1800s, the court has held from the 1800s through the 1900s, and that century, all the way up until 2018 was the most recent case that we're aware of, where the Supreme Court has told the federal government, hey, the states are sovereign. The states have the right to do whatever the hell they want with their own state. That's why we have 50 state capitals in the first place. That's why we have 50 state legislatures. If we simply all existed to serve the pleasure of the federal government of Joe Biden, we could just demolish our state capitals or turn them into, some public facility of some sort. And so we have an absolute constitutional, legal, and moral right in Georgia to choose to not enforce federal gun control laws. And don't take my word for it. I'll read you guys some stuff here in a minute. But just look at the marijuana laws. A growing number of states are saying, we don't mind marijuana here. Recreational, medicinal, whatever it is, we have no problem with this. And so we're not going to enforce federal laws against the use, possession of marijuana. Sanctuary cities, another example on the opposite side of the spectrum, perhaps. All the lefties for 4 years under Trump said, we don't care if you're a rapist, we don't care if you're a murderer, we don't care if you're a robber, we don't care if you're a home invader. If you're an illegal alien and you want to seek sanctuary from President Trump, who's trying to keep America safe by evicting you out of this country, come here, come to California, you come to Chicago, come to New York. You're safe here from federal laws. It's always worked fine when President Trump is in the White House, right? But now that their guy is in the White House, they're coming after anybody who tries to assert state authority. And so we have the right to do it. The question is, the problem is, we don't have a governor who will lead this fight. And that is the purpose of this broadcast, guys. Again, I work a lot with and have for a long time with the Missouri Firearms Coalition. And this session in Missouri, after we adjourned in Atlanta, Missouri, they go into session way into May, Missouri finally passed the Second Amendment Preservation Act. And I want to be clear on this. This was not easy. This didn't happen just because. It didn't happen because, one or two people filed a bill and there was no opposition. We had extreme opposition the entire time. But behind the scenes always was Missouri Governor Mike Parson. And Missouri Governor Parson stood there and made it clear to his legislature that this is a priority of mine this year. I want this done. And so eventually, the last day of session, the Missouri legislature made it happen and passed it. And then it went to the governor's desk, and after a couple days, he reviewed it, and it was signed into law. And now Missouri is a Second Amendment Preservation Act state. No federal gun control, no federal executive actions, none of it can be enforced in Missouri by Missouri cops, troopers, deputies of any kind. None. Zero. Now, here's the real difference now. So the Biden administration is in meltdown mode about this. Merrick Garland, the DOJ are in absolute meltdown mode because if this idea spreads, if red state governors like Brian Kemp grow a pair and make this happen here in Georgia, if this spreads, this is the beginning of the end of their dream of federal gun control, because while they still have the federal right, they still have the right to use their own personnel, federal law enforcement officials, for example, to enforce federal gun control laws. Simple fact of the matter is that they don't have the manpower, they don't have the resources, and they don't have the political will to send in federal officers into Georgia, into Missouri, into red America, and enforce this garbage. If they did, they'd be enforcing the federal marijuana laws, wouldn't they? And they're not. They're not. And so they're desperately hoping that this does not spread. This being the courage that you're going to hear about momentarily from Missouri Governor Mike Parson, who knocked it out of the park. So 2 days ago in Missouri, the DOJ sends a letter to the governor, to the state of Missouri. They leak it to the press, right? Predictably. So the press is mocking Governor Parson in Missouri because he has received this big letter from the DOJ. And in short, the DOJ said, we're the federal government. We're in charge. You're a bunch of yokel locals who have no control over what we do. Don't you dare try to defend your citizens against federal law. We have the right to enforce our laws via the Supremacy Clause, and we're going to do it. It was a great big attempt to muscle Governor Parson in Missouri and to muscle gun owners into Missouri in thinking that, oh, there's no point. This whole thing was for nothing. And I want you to listen to this. I'm going to read you some sections from the letter that Joe Biden, Merrick Garland, and the DOJ got back from Missouri Governor Mike Parson. This was yesterday. If you watched our show last night, you might have seen we had two special guests. We had Senator Eric Burleson and State Rep Jared Taylor on our show. Now, these are the guys that sponsored the bill in the House and Senate in Missouri and got this done. And we discussed this in the show last night. But this bears repeating, and I want you to listen to this And this is why we say governors set the agenda. Governors decide how much freedom we're going to have in red America, certainly while we're under the tyranny of Joe Biden. So this is the response that Missouri Governor Mike Parson gave to President Biden and to the DOJ when they basically said, sit down and shut up. They said, this is just some of the key paragraphs. This is a 7-page response to a 7-page letter. This is to all these people. Your letter purporting to ask for clarification of our new SEPA legislation, which was leaked to the media in advance, we might add, is riddled with misunderstandings of the law and straight-up falsehoods. We will not stand by while the federal government tries to tell Missourians how to live our lives. Missouri is not trying to nullify federal law. Instead, Missouri is defending its people from federal government overreach by prohibiting state and local authorities from being used by the federal government to infringe upon Missourians' rights to keep and bear arms. Wouldn't it be nice to hear Brian Kemp talk about gun owners like that? Maybe talk about gun owners at all and defend us, except for during an election season? They go on to say the founders of our country recognized that the right to keep and bear arms, not the central government, is the citizen's first line of defense against physical attack. Thus, this right received its greatest emphasis during times in our history when the government could not be counted on to protect citizens' personal security. They go on to discuss all of the various Supreme Court case laws which have protected and strengthened the idea of SEPA this entire time. If you're getting in late, again, this is the idea here is that the states have always had the right to do what they thought was best for their citizens. And so where state and federal law contradict, the states have never been required to enforce federal law. If they don't like it, they can simply ignore it, as they do with marijuana, as the left has done with sanctuary cities. That's the idea. This letter keeps on going. Missouri is proud to have the most expansive protection for the right to keep and bear arms anywhere in the United States of America. Our Constitution has explicitly protected the right to keep and bear arms since its very first adoption in 1820. They're laying out the groundwork here. Wait till you get to the best part. It's and again, guys, I'm skipping over a 6.5-page long letter here to get to some of the key paragraphs here. The 10th Amendment directly limits the federal government's ability to shift the balance of power within the federal system away from the states. See Prins v. United States, see New York v. United States, and on it goes. They say, I'm jumping down towards the bottom half here. Accordingly, the state of Missouri has every right under our system of government and the 10th Amendment to place limitations on what the state and local officials are going to do. In other words, there are cops. It's our tax money. It's our state. We have the right. Pound sand. That's what the governor of Missouri is telling Joe Biden. Not here in Georgia. The Department of Justice has identified no problems with federal law from the standpoint of SEPA legislation with regards to our activities and our right to hire who we see fit. Indeed, any such conflict raised by you would unconstitutionally commandeer Missourians and our state government. The governor goes on here to make the obvious point. He says, furthermore, your letter of June 16 directly conflicts with your own policies towards sanctuary cities. On his first day in office, President Biden rescinded President Trump's executive order that prohibited federal grant money to sanctuary jurisdictions that refuse to cooperate with the federal government in the enforcement of immigration laws. In April this year, the Office of Justice Programs repealed the DOJ's policy, this is from President Trump, that required recipients of federal law enforcement grant money to cooperate with the Immigration and Custom Enforcement Agency. President Biden and the DOJ have decided to reward states and cities that refuse to cooperate with enforcing our constitutional immigration laws that protect our citizens against foreign threats. But now, and here, listen to this, but now you attack Missouri for refusing to cooperate with enforcing unconstitutional gun confiscation laws that put our citizens in danger and degrade our rights. You cannot have it both ways. This is amazing. This is a governor who is standing up, standing in the gap, defending his citizens and telling a tyrannical government, screw you, I'm going to defend my citizens. And again, this is not Brian Kemp. This is Mike Parson, governor of Missouri. They say, Missouri will defend our citizens and our laws from federal government overreach. In an interview with Anderson Cooper in August of 2019, then candidate Joe Biden confirmed his desire to confiscate our guns. Cooper asked, so to gun owners out there who say, well, a Biden administration means they're going to come for my guns, what would you say? Biden's response, he says, bingo, you're right. If you have an assault weapon, the fact of the matter is they should be illegal, period. Your letter of June 16 provides no confidence that the Biden administration has retreated from this radical anti-gun position. Indeed, your letter explicitly endorses the view that federal laws authorizing the confiscation of our guns from law-abiding citizens would be constitutional and valid. We do not share your radical view that federal law may effectively cancel out the fundamental liberties that equally are guaranteed by the Second Amendment and our state constitution. 2 paragraphs left. The Second Amendment Preservation Act protects Missourians from such attempts to violate the right to keep and bear arms. Missouri's Constitution requires, listen to this, Missouri's Constitution requires the state of Missouri to uphold the right to keep and bear arms and, quote, under no circumstances decline to protect against their infringement, end quote. We will carry out our constitutional duty to defend Missourians' right to keep and bear arms and our Second Amendment Preservation Act, and we will fight tooth and nail to defend the right to keep and bear arms protected by the Second Amendment, our Constitution, and our new Second Amendment Preservation Act. And we will not tolerate any attempt by the federal government to deprive Missourians of this critical civil right. Very truly yours, Mike Parson, Governor, State of Missouri. And so I just want you to listen to that. Let that freedom roll around in your mind. Listen to this. This is a governor who knows his job. This is a governor who has balls. This is a governor who is going to stand in the gap, stand up for his citizens and say, you know what? This is not going to do that here. We're not going to enforce tyranny here. I'm the governor here. And so the federal government can go pound sand. And that's what's happening in red America all across the country right now. This is the best example of this, but you guys all know what's going on. Constitutional carry is storming America. 5 states, Governor Abbott yesterday signed this bill into law in Texas. The bill has been sent to the governor in Louisiana, who will veto. Presumably, they said they would. However, there's enough votes there to override the governor's veto. So there's a strong chance that we're going to see 6 states sign constitutional carry into law this year. We have SAPA law spreading all across the country. We have all manner of pro-gun bills moving across the country right now. But we've got Brian Kemp sitting here in red Georgia, in red America, doing nothing. Doing nothing. Now, this guy is counting on gun owners to say, well, of course we're going to support Brian. After all, who else do we got? Well, I can just tell you, Brian, gun owners respect courage. Gun owners respect people who will fight for them. You've done nothing for us. Nothing since you've been elected. You made a promise. You've done nothing. Your job now is to earn our trust, earn our respect. Because right now, you got neither. You got none of it. Nothing. So if you want to see gun owners, stand for you down the road, you better, by God, stand for us now. Next session, we want action on constitutional carry. Next session, we want action on the Second Amendment Preservation Act. Philip Singleton has sponsored these bills for us, and you, Brian Kemp, you guys laughed him out of the building, did all you could to attack him, all you could to belittle him. You let Speaker Ralston come after him. You stood there and did nothing. You did nothing. And you can expect the same from gun owners if you deliver nothing for us between now and next year. It's just that simple. I'm going to post a comment here, guys, in the comment section right now. Give me just a couple seconds here to do that. It is going to be posted right now. Here we go. I see Hardy Taylor here right now. Good to see you, Hardy. I see Owen. Yeah, Owen, we'll be in touch. Absolutely be in touch with you on that. But, guys, this is what has to happen. We have a red state. I don't care what happened last November. We all know what BS that was. But this is a red state, and we damn sure have a red legislature. The question is, will they act like it or not? Will they act like it or not? Brian Kemp can do exactly what Mike Parson has done, the governor in Missouri. He can lead. He can have the guts, the courage to tell the federal government, you're not going to get away with that crap here. We're not going to enforce your gun control here. We're not going to sit idly by while federal tyranny gets rammed down our throat and you expect us to carry it out. It's just not going to happen. Brian has that option. The question is, will he use it? Will he use it? I can tell you this. He's going to get hammered by Georgia gun owners if he doesn't. We're not here to play games. We're not here to protect a party, protect his career. We're here to fight for gun owners. And so far, Brian, we're the only ones doing it because you've done nothing for all this time. So, guys, that's what's going on right now across the country. That's what we could see from our governor if he has the courage. That's what we need to insist on. So when you talk to your state reps are just as equally guilty too. There's a handful of them who have some guts. There's a handful, very few. State reps, state senators, same message. You fight for us or don't expect us to fight for you. It's that simple. Charlie says, better be careful or Georgia will not be a red state for very long. Hopefully we all stand up and fight for our rights and freedoms. We must stay red. Exactly. That's the whole point. We don't have forever to deal with this. We're not going to be a red state forever. The demographics are pretty obvious. We have to fight hard now while we have the votes to get this stuff done and make this happen now. Pass these laws now. That starts, though, with the top. That starts with Brian Kemp showing leadership or stabbing us in the back as he's done so many times before. So, guys, that's what I have time for right now. Sign your petition supporting SEPA immediately. Join up with GGO. Many of you already are. If you're not, we need you guys now. We're in a hell of a fight right now, holding the line in D.C., holding the line here in Georgia, and we need you on board with this fight. So get signed up, guys, and share our video. We'll be in touch with you guys more. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Carry every single place you go, and we'll keep you informed. Thank you.